Welcome to episode 5 of the Unvarnished Edit, where two friends talk about what it's actually like to live an adversity filled life. Be prepared to laugh, possibly cry, and swear along with us. This is Angie, and in today's episode, we discuss how we show up even when we don't want to. We hope you enjoy.
Right.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I
Yeah,
want to hear about your trip.
my trip. So yes, we just got back from our honeymoon, delayed honeymoon. We got married last year, but decided to wait until weather was nicer, etc., etc. So we went to Europe. It was great. We had a really good time. Let's see, the weather was like super warm in one country, freezing cold in another country. Then we came home here and it was over 100 degrees. Like my body was
Oof.
like mass freak out after that. So I've been a little under the weather since. But as predicted, I watched Bridgerton on the airplane, cried like a baby. I actually
Yes.
yes, I waited until the flight home. Our trip,
Yeah.
we had so many different things going on with this trip that the flight home, we just barely booked like 10 days before we came home. Before we left on the trip, I mean. And so we didn't have seats together. And so I had saved Bridgerton for that occasion. And so I'm sitting in the middle in between like a young man who's maybe 19 or 20 and an older gentleman who's probably in his 60s and me and Bridgerton. So I had to fast forward through a couple scenes. I was like, I do not want to be removed from
Mhm.
the plane for showing pornography. Like,
Mhm.
I was a little uncomfortable at some points.
Mhm.
But before I started Bridgerton, I finished my book club book and I was sobbing through the book club book. And then I took a break and I was like, all right, I'll do Bridgerton. And I calmed down for a little bit. And then I got to the sad parts and I was like, these people must think I'm a lunatic because I just cried the entire flight. It was so good though.
It was so good, right?
It
It
was
was
so
so
good.
good.
It was so
I
good.
know. I wanna watch The Madison so bad with Michelle
Yeah.
Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell,
Okay.
but I know that I am going to be absolutely a mess.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out the day that I can binge it because 'cause I'm gonna have to watch the whole entire thing so that way I can bawl hysterically, take some ibuprofen because I will give myself a migraine, and
Hmm.
then not have to work or do anything the next day because I will be so emotionally hungover from
Yes.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
because I just
Yes.
know it. I can't even watch the clips without in
Well,
tears.
I love to always know what's gonna make me cry because
Mhm.
then when I feel like I have like that pent up, I'm like, all right, let me go be a sad person for a while. Like I'll watch this episode or listen to this song because I know it's just gonna make me cry. And then it's all out and I can move
Yeah.
on with life.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I absolutely. I cannot cry unless it is, like, something else a lot of time.
Yes. Yes.
My system shuts that shit down. It is like,
Right.
"Nope. You are over the Rubicon of emotions that we are allowed to
Yeah.
show in public,"
Right.
and even
Right.
if it is just my room.
Right. It'll be like, you can't cry about this really awful thing that happened, but
Mhm.
if your toast falls on the floor, you can lose it.
Which I guess is probably a good segue
I know, we always do
into
this.
into today's is how do we show up even if we don't want to? Which honestly has probably been a theme in our lives the vast majority in different aspects of life throughout, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not always been everything that we don't want to show up at like one time.
Yeah.
Uh, but when you I think when you live a life where you are regularly self-reflecting and really trying to like move forward and heal and just be a better, learn and grow, right? Like it's a lot of responsibility. It can feel like a lot of responsibility, right? Like that whole quote of like once you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
Th that's a load to carry if you choose to, you know, be in that space, and so,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times that, that you have to just show up for life even when you don't want to, and you
Yeah.
just would rather crawl back in bed, and I think that's also being a mom, being a woman. right? It's especially a mom. Like, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, since we decided on this topic, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've been kind of trying to pay attention to sort of the different areas of my life and how I feel like I am in those areas, right? Because we kind of talked about like we have how do we show up at work when we don't want to? How do we show up for our families when we don't want to? And how do we show up for ourselves we don't want to when we don't want to? First of all, yeah, I think as I've grown and learned and always strived to improve in the areas that I think I need to improve in, I find myself sometimes wishing I didn't know a better way to be. Like,
Absolutely.
why do I have to be the adult in this situation?
Absolutely.
Right? And wishing that I could just like play to my baser instinct and not
Mhm.
feel like I have to do the right thing. Like, I don't know if I'm wording that right, but also I think I know for sure the spot that I've always had the hardest showing up for is I always have a hard time showing up for myself,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
To the point where
As
now it feels
caretakers,
selfish when I do.
yeah.
It
Like,
feels
we
selfish.
literally have to learn how to
Mhm.
show up for ourselves, and I feel
Yeah.
like this has been a consistent journey. I
Yeah.
remember when Todd and I first got together, and he was like, "You do realize you do nothing for yourself, right?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I do this, I do that, I get my nails done and I get a haircut regularly." He's like, "That's not real." And I was like, "But that's where we're at." And I get myself a coffee and I get Starbucks. We get treats along the way, right?
Yeah.
And but I had to learn. Like, I had to learn, what does it even mean when we say show up for yourself? I think it's a
Yeah.
lot I think
Yeah.
it's easier to understand what it means when you show up for work, right? We're present at work, we're active in that space. I think it's easy to understand showing up for family and our kiddos because that's easier to understand, but when it comes to showing it for ourselves, I think a lot of times we have to learn what that actually is.
I think when it becomes an internal thing of like, no, actually showing up for myself as saying, I'm not comfortable with this, or
Oof.
I don't actually like to do this thing that I've been doing just to please you or because you want to do it, or, those things have been almost impossible for me to learn how to do at some points.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's hard, and it feels like and we've said this before, and we'll probably say it 100 times again, because when we have been doing patterns for decades,
Yeah.
and we're trying to change patterns that we have really like, when we think of brain circuits and we think of neural pathways, it is it is difficult to change that pathway because you automatically want to default, right, at all times. So, like, especially when you get dysregulated, which is the time that you need to show up for yourself the most, is
Yeah.
actually the hardest time to show up for yourself because your brain just wants the safe pattern, even though it's not actually the safe pattern, but the pattern that has been there for so long that feels safe to it.
Yeah.
It wants to, automatically, like we talked about in our last episode, the safety template, it wants to default back to that, like, not being seen and not being heard and those places that it kind of feels safe. And so for me, it is a constant, like concrete things that I do. I have 2, 3 different alarms on my phone that are set for recurring daily. So there is an app that you can get, like, a repeat alarm app where you can just say, and honestly, whenever I'm trying to do something new. So, like, right now, what are my apps? Or what are my
Yeah.
things?
Reminders.
Right now, my 11:11 a.m. reminder is be fiercely protective of ourselves.
Ooh, I like that.
That reminder has been there for the longest. That one has probably been there for a year and a half, 2 years. Like, once I feel like I'm in that space,
Mhm.
and I got that, I usually change it, or if something new comes in, then I go and change it, and it has I mean, I've been doing this for years because I have found that having that reminder actually helps me, and then I have 2 other reminders on my phone, and one is rest is progress because I need it, and the other one is communication is key,
So I'm
and s
so curious about this because when you get those alarms, right? So let's
Mhm.
say, your communication is key alarm comes up in the afternoon. Do you like read it and contemplate it and like take it? Like, how do you, like, literally logistically, what do you do in that moment that you read the message?
It just depends. There are some days where I'm like, "Okay, we really gotta, like, be super intentional of it,"
Okay.
and other days where it's like, "I don't even remember that alarm going off," kind of piece to it, and
Yeah.
so giving myself grace for that, right?
Uh-huh.
But when they do come up, it is just an intentional thought, "Oh, that's right. Rest is progress," and I typically will, take a breath or just give
Yeah.
some kind of thought or attention to it.
When I set reminders like that, or when I've had like affirmation apps before or whatever, I completely ignore them. They
Yeah.
don't, it becomes like white noise for my eyeballs.
Mhm.
Like I'm just
Mhm.
like, whatever, eh. And that's the same thing you and I talked about our calendars one time. There's certain things in my calendar that if they're on there, that's gospel to me. It's only when someone else is involved. Like I have a meeting or I have to be somewhere. Those are the only things that matter to me in my calendar. If I calendar a walk or time at the gym or something like that, if I don't do it, I don't feel embarrassed, I don't feel ashamed, and I don't care. And having it in my calendar doesn't make me go. And I
Yeah.
find that to be really challenging of like, how do I first of all, I find it amazing that that works for other people. I'm like envious of that. I'm like, how does your brain take that seriously? Because I'm the one that put it in there. I can take it out. Like just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a real commitment to me.
Yeah.
Um, the only commitments in my calendar that I believe and adhere to are the ones that someone else will be upset with me if I don't do it. I will be upsetting someone else. Like I'll miss a
Yeah.
meeting or I'll be late for an appointment or something like that. Then it's like gospel. I will be there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
when
but I
it's just
think
for
that
me,
but I think that speaks exactly to showing up for yourself,
I know, I know. I'm like,
right?
huh,
Like,
there's my problem. That'll be $150. Thank you.
I'll take the Dutch Brothers gift card, thanks. No, but I had to teach myself
Yeah.
because I was the exact same way. Like, I could put it in the calendar, it wouldn't make a difference. It was something that I was gonna do. I one point, I would get to the point of shaming myself or taking privilege, almost like treating myself as if I was the child
Oh, you grounded
in
yourself?
yeah, no, absolutely. And, like, you could not have this, but see, I've always worked I've always worked that way where
Yeah.
I'm a super, like, treat-based person. I just am. I didn't even realize that gas station kids were a thing. I was not raised a gas station kid, but I raised gas station kids. My husband is not even in the like, he can go into a gas station, use their bathroom, not purchase a single thing, and I know. I literally find it rude. I'm like, "You're giving me a bathroom that I can use, so
That's
therefore
a
I"
law.
Right, like, I should buy a treat, so I should go there, and then being a smoker for so many years, I could never buy a carton of cigarettes because then I'd actually smoke more, so I had to
Right.
buy a pack every single day, so I was in the gas station
All the
every
time.
day, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always been a kind of a treat person that way. And so I literally would treat myself like a child as far as, okay, well, then you can't have that. Like, if you can't even show up for this piece, you know what I mean? That's in there. But I was never taught to show up for myself ever. In fact, showing up for myself was incredibly dangerous. And so, I mean, it's not it's not easy, but it can happen, and I
Yeah.
think it is really that intentional piece to it, and taking it small. like, we tend to go into these projects like it's across the whole entire board, and it's so
Yeah.
much that the brain is like, "To
Can't
you,"
do it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it. For those of you who are just listening, that would have been a middle finger
Hey, but at least we don't have
because
to bleep it.
right. Like, we take on these big projects and think that it all has to happen at one time, and you have to, especially when it comes for yourself, make the tasks small and actionable, something that you can actually see. So, like, when my husband and I first got together and he was like, "Getting your nails done and getting your hair done is not a thing." It was for me, though, because I would go months, I would go years. I've gone 8, 9 years without a haircut because I've put everyone else and every single else thing first,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
everything there was always something else. So to him, it was like, that's not really doing it. But to me, it had meant everything, and it gave me the foundation of starting to put myself first and starting to show up for myself. So that when when we would talk about it and it's like, okay, well, we need to rest. Like, you probably shouldn't be like working every free moment that you have, right? Like, what does that look like? Listening to my body. We talked before about the amount of times that I have worked myself to like a physiological
Yeah.
sickness.
Yeah.
I needed that small piece of foundation, which seems so like getting your hair done, getting your nails done thing in order for me to move forward, right? So, like, when we talk about this is not this like big thing, is like, what are the little things? Where do you, what can you add in to create that foundation of doing it for yourself that actually means something?
Yeah. And that's interesting because I'm also thinking about like we were talking this week about there was like a change I wanted to make that was so easy to make all of a sudden. And it was something I had been trying to do for a while. Then I got, it's just some dietary stuff, right? And I wasn't eating right and I didn't feel good. Like I was like, just my body, I was just like, felt gross and I just
Mhm.
couldn't change it. And then I got some blood work back that wasn't great. And I immediately was like, oh, well, now I can change it. And it was sort of like
Mhm.
that, having that purpose or that reason to change it took all of the friction out, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of got me thinking about purpose a little bit, where like when I feel like I'm being very purposeful at work or I have like a purpose that I'm moving towards, it's so much easier for me to be there on hard days or deal with problems that I don't want to deal with, whatever. Same with parenting and in my family. When I feel like we're all on the same page and we're moving towards aligned goals and things like that, it's a lot easier to manage the friction and manage that. And so, what's interesting to me about that is if I can have a purpose, like an overarching purpose, a big picture, and I can align my work and my family and my relationships and my free time with that and advocate for myself in those areas with regards to what I feel is purposeful, that's actually a way to show up for myself. And so for me, that's like an easier entry point of because I am so other focused
Mhm.
that if I feel really purposeful, I can stand up for myself and say, no, I don't want to do that because that doesn't align with something that is a purpose for me. Right.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because it's kind of like a combination of two things. It's like a big overarching umbrella of purpose and also tiny little steps of building habits just to advocate for yourself or take care of yourself or make space for yourself. It's almost like working at it from both ends where then you come to a spot where all of a sudden you are center of your own life, which is really the goal, right? I want to be the main
Mhm.
character of my own life. To do that takes a lot of little decisions, but big purposes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's made me start thinking of like, how do we show up when we don't have that purpose? And I'm thinking
Yes.
specifically, right, for like work and I mean, family's a little bit different, but specifically for work, especially if it's something like we don't like to do. or we don't feel that but we need the money. We
Yeah.
have to work, right? And so how do we show up for work while not losing ourselves in that piece? Because I think that has been a big thing for me my whole life is, right? How do we show up for others? How do we show up for, the things we have to do in life without losing ourselves? How do they not become the largest purpose
Mhm.
where we're then the smallest purpose?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I think work has been like really challenging for me in the past couple years, especially because work is hard to find and you have a criminal justice background. That is a
Mhm.
very challenging position to be in. And I'm super grateful that I've been able to move past that and I've grown out of that. But I think there's so many different parts of what goes into that work conversation, right? Because we have our purpose and our family and our bills and all of that, but there's also external factors like socioeconomics and class and poverty and all of these issues that, like, it feels like a privilege to really even be able to say, I need to have a purpose at work.
Yeah.
So that makes it a tricky
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But without that purpose, the weight of carrying it is super detrimental and heavy.
It's absolutely, like, physically draining, it's emotionally draining.
Yeah.
You come home at the end of your day and you're like, why am I
Yeah.
even doing this? What is the point?
Yeah.
What is the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really
And
hard.
it's really hard. And I think there's a lot of us that are actually, you know what I mean, in that position. I mean, not currently in that position, have been in that position. And for me, I've always had to change the narrative, right? Like, even if it's just changing the narrative in my head, we have a we have a saying that we can do hard things. And literally that's like I will
Mhm.
just repeat it. Like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of move through those pieces. But what I have found is crucial in order for it not to take me out completely
Mhm. Mhm.
is what I do when I leave the place, right? So whether the work is done or I'm physically leaving the work is done and making sure that I am intentionally doing something for myself, breathing, releasing, whatever it is, showering helps to kind of really like get the ick right? Off and through, even if it's just metaphorically, it has worked, but I have to be super intentional for showing up for myself and even just kind of creating the capacity to do whatever it is throughout. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
having those little pieces because without that, I feel like it takes your soul,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
I have
And they don't
found
have a right.
no. No. I have found what works really well for me is when I am in a situation where I have no choices at work, I've got to be there and I it does not align with me. I have to create something else in my life, like a volunteer opportunity, or I have
Mm,
to create something else to offset it. And, it could be like when my kids were younger, I spent a lot of time at the school because I would feel really purposeful there. I felt like I was contributing to that. Volunteer work, like anything I could do to like create a little bit of space and balance where it wasn't like this, it could be like
mm,
maybe this, right?
mhm.
That has always helped me make it through. And then, just reminding myself, this is not forever. This is not forever. This is not forever.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
not forever. And I like to tell
Yes.
myself, evidence has shown you are not going to be doing this forever, right? Because I can just kind of use my own history as like my own evidence.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Kinda it's along the same lines of the statement that people make of you've survived 100%
So far.
of of the horrible days you've had so far, right?
Yeah.
Like, evidence
Yeah.
has shown
Yeah.
that
You're gonna
1,
make it.
this this too will pass.
Mhm.
2, that that we do come through. right? I think a
Yeah.
lot of times too, just reminding, like, not only do we come through, but typically we come through with some kind of lesson,
A
something is a little
skill.
bit better, even if it totally takes me out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a big negative effect, even past that, knowing that that goes, you know what I mean? That there's something, and maybe it is a brand new boundary
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
just never knew that I needed.
Yeah. I've learned something at every job I've had, even the crappy ones. But I will say, when I'm in it and I'm unhappy about it, if someone says to me, "This too shall pass," I will punch them
Oh,
in the face.
no. Exactly.
We don't say that.
Rightfully so.
We just
Valid
know
response.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't share that
Mhm.
advice. We just embody that advice. FYI.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it does help,
absolutely.
and I think it helps as we age and we have more life experience to really be able to know that this is a point in time. Wherever I'm
Yeah,
at, whether I'm having a difficult time at work, if I'm having a difficult time parenting or being in this relationship, I I know it will pass, right? And that really I think is something that comes with life experience is starting to know that, and really life has gone through cycles. It cycles, and sometimes work is more important, sometimes I'm more important, sometimes my family is more important.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about, showing up for family. That has always been super easy for me because that's my default of where to go, right? And
Mhm.
what I have learned actually is that I show up best for my family when I've already shown up for myself.
Yeah.
And that the more I do for them, the worse it is for them. And
Yes.
that yeah, that was a hard lesson because I just literally had the conversation with the kids last week, and I said the minor kids, and I said, "Sometimes I really absolutely despise being a, quote, good parent because I know that this is a really hard time for you, and what I want to do is I want to just let you stay home. I want us to go watch a movie. I want us to go get some takeout. I just want to make you feel better in this moment. But I know that all I'm doing is delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
And so, although you do not wanna go and face this right now, number 1, I do not blame you in any way, shape, or form. I don't want you to go face
I know.
this,
I know.
right? Like, I wish I could do something else, but I know that for you, this is going to be that you need to go through this because all we're doing is that you're always gonna have a first day
Mhm.
back for whatever the situation is. You can only delay it for so long. I had to be able to show up for myself though and be in
Yeah.
a space where I could actually say that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because
Yeah. I had a situation this weekend with my youngest, and she wasn't with us, and she was texting me, and she needed to do something she didn't want to do.
yeah.
And she had already waited too long to do it, and
Mhm.
it was making it worse. And I kept telling
Mhm.
her, you have got to just do this. Rip off the band-aid. You are making it worse. And I could have stepped in and done the thing for her, and because she needed to tell her dad something.
Mhm.
She kept delaying and delaying, and I could see, as an adult, I could see it playing out poorly for her the longer she delayed. And I could have, and in previous instances in my life when I was younger and knew less, I would have stepped in, had that initial communication on her behalf. And this
Mhm.
time I had to really restrain myself and remind myself that she needs this lesson. She needs the consequences of her actions. I cannot save her from this. The best parent I can be right now is to let her mess this up and get in
Mhm.
trouble. and have the
Mhm.
consequences of it. And the only reason I'm able to do that now is because I've done enough work myself to see the times that I have interrupted other people's consequences or other people have interrupted the consequences for me, and it has been hugely detrimental to me. And
Mhm.
she eventually did it. It did not go well at all.
No.
It is still, it is, this ball is still rolling downhill.
Right.
and
Right.
and she's upset, and it's like, yeah, I saw this and I'm not going to say I told you so, because
Right.
she doesn't need to know that.
Yeah.
She knows already. It's just
Mhm.
letting it all play out, allowing it to unfold naturally for our kids is antithetical to what I feel like I want to do inside.
Mhm.
And to be
Yeah.
able to allow that to happen is takes a lot of work for me internally.
Mhm.
Checking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
And
hard.
yeah, and being able to control those feelings is self-care. Being able to say, I am really upset right now. I hate this for her. I'm like bouncing out of my skin, but I've got to let this happen.
Yeah.
I can't step in to ease my anxiety. That's
Mhm.
not the right choice. And so that is, I
Mhm.
think, when we're talking about taking care of ourselves as parents before we parent, I think that's what I mean by that. It's
Yeah,
hard
absolutely. It's hard. You have to have capacity to really be able to feel the hard
and sit with
and
it.
to sit with it. Yeah, and to sit with it. And that takes a lot of capacity
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And letting
you know,
ourselves be supported in that as
yeah.
well, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of it, and there's no way I would have been able to do that as a younger parent, right? I just didn't have the skills to take care of my own emotions. If I felt uncomfortable with what my kids were going through, I would solve it so that my discomfort would go away.
Ugh,
And
it was such a hard lesson for me to learn the amount of times
mhm,
that I did things, not because it
mhm.
was best for them, but because it was really honestly best for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was incredibly difficult to sit through
Mhm.
discomfort and pain.
So it wasn't until I read Codependent No More by Melody
Mhm.
Beatty, and she gave her definition of codependence of not allowing others to have the consequences of their own actions. And I was like, so what you're saying is I'm codependent? I would literally like my soul
That book
left my
was a life
body.
changer. No, that book was a life changer for me as well.
Oh my
Absolutely. It was like,
god.
"Oh,
My soul
yeah."
left my body, like, my entire history replayed before me, and
Yeah.
not only did I realize I had been doing that for my children for their entire life, I realized that that is how I was raised as well, or how I was interacted with as well.
Mhm.
Multiple people in my life were spending a lot of time not letting me feel the consequences of the choices that I made.
Yeah.
And seems benevolent at the time, but it is not. That is
No.
very, very
Yeah.
detrimental.
Yeah. And then we end up having conversations in our late 40s, early 50s of how do we show up for ourselves?
Yep.
Because as hard as it is, learning those lessons and allowing those lessons to come through is actually how we learn what
Mhm.
it is we need. Like when I say show up for myself, what are some of the things that I actually mean by that, right? Like identifying how do things feel? Like really, like in your body, like how does it how are you connected to your body, right?
Yeah.
Do you even feel those things? These are all things that I've had to learn. I
Mhm.
I did not have language
Mm-mm.
for any of it. And I had no I mean I just didn't even know what that meant when someone said show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Like literally like what do you mean? Like how am I not showing up for
I know,
myself?
I'm
Like
like,
I'm here.
I ate breakfast today, what do you mean?
Exactly.
I have a new
Like,
pair of
"Oh,
shoes.
do you mean that the fact that I can't say no?" When I learned that no is a complete sentence, that was
Yeah.
life-changing for me.
Yeah.
You mean I don't have to explain my no? No is a
Yeah.
complete sentence,
You know
right?
what I had to learn? No is a complete sentence, but you have to say it out loud. Because I would say it internally all the time.
Mhm.
Internally, I would just be like, no, nope. And then I would go do the thing. And
Yeah.
so I literally have to say to myself, this is one of the things I say to myself all the time. No is a complete sentence, but I have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I know. So I think what we've come down to here and a takeaway here is thinking about purpose, right? Thinking about how we can handle ourselves and handle what's going on inside ourselves so that we
Mhm.
can allow others to feel and handle themselves,
Mhm.
but also taking like tiny steps forward towards what we want for ourselves or
Mhm.
what is best for ourselves, I guess. Because sometimes the
Yeah.
thing that's best for us is not always the thing that's like the big shiny object, right? So I don't like the word
Yeah.
want there, but moving towards what is best for us in small steps and not trying to just like overhaul your life because I don't like the way this looks, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's I
Yeah.
think that's the takeaway.
Yeah, and that, showing up even when we don't want to, that is a regular occurrence and is going to happen. So, I think not shaming ourselves,
Mhm.
not guilting ourselves, just recognizing, like, I really don't want to do this, but why don't I want to do this?
Yeah.
Does it cross about my own personal boundary? Is it right negative to my well-being? Is it, what is it
Yeah.
that I don't want to show up for? Because a lot of times it's different than what we think it is,
Yeah. That's a good
right?
point.
And so always investigating the why. Like, not shaming ourselves for the feelings. Our feelings are here. They just are. And feelings are like toddlers. And if you've ever had a toddler who like wants something and they'll come and they'll be, mom here, I want
Mhm.
this. And you're like, hold on a second, hold on a second. And they just increase in temperature and they increase in tempo and in
Mhm.
things and everything until you stop, you give them whatever it is that they're asking, and then what do? They go on their merry own way, and you don't
Yeah.
see them again,
Yeah.
right? Feelings are that way as well. We can push them back and push them back and push them back. All they're gonna do is get louder, and
Mhm.
so just acknowledging, "Okay, I have to show up for this, and I don't want to. Why is it that I don't want to?"
Yeah.
Because that will help us, right, identify what the next step is and
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you can do for yourself to continue, right,
Yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, to
Totally.
find that.
Totally. I know.
Well, I love this
Oh,
conversation.
I do
Yeah.
too. I think it's been really helpful and like it's made me think a lot. It's been really thought provoking of
Mhm.
like how what do I think about purpose and work and family and self and where those all combine and intersect. So yeah, really thought provoking. So thanks for having it
Yeah,
with me.
and where are we not showing up
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for being with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate. We will see you next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. If this has been impactful for you, please subscribe and share with someone you think needs to hear this. We will be back next week to share some thoughts about what isn't being said about healing.